Okay, so what you're seeing now is what we've basically accumulated from the very, very start of all these tutorials on this DVD. You have the, attached presets and everything, all the attached DVD info and this photo and stuff. So you can, open these if you want to mess with exactly what I'm messing with in these tutorials from this DVD. So, feel free to get that. Via our website. But other than that, next step in this image, and it's almost like a child. It's growing up. We've watched him get in a little league, and then he drives his first car. We've gone from this, with the green screen, decent lighting, to this. So we're coming along in the process of finishing up this kind of modern band looking photography that you don't often see in conventional portraits or bland, old, boring, like photography for dummies. You're definitely not going to learn that stuff through there. And, luckily I've learned through trial and error and working with other industry professionals that have done, massive, massive bands and photos for huge corporations and companies. So, what we got is, we got our blur background to kind of ease it in. We got our image on top of there. We kind of erase some of the edges to smooth that in. We got his eyes fixed up. If you notice the eyes right there, we cleaned those up in a previous tutorial. We won't push it up too much so it doesn't look too crazy. So we got that. We added extra texture to his shirt. We can take that out if we want to. That was just kind of a cool thing. Added some texture on the top, to boost it. So we'll feel this out. Now the big thing we need to do to tie all of this hard work so far and starting to come up with a final product is we need to put in a background. So I borrowed some pictures. I went through a couple pictures. Was just looking at stuff at deviantart.com. And once again, these are other people's, photos, stuff like that. I was just kind of glancing through some really cool stuff. I can appreciate how good, these dudes are at their stuff. But I was looking at pictures that would be suitable. I'm not going to go outside and take one for this tutorial just because it's minus 40 degrees in Arizona right now, believe it or not. So I was looking at focal video, photos that would match up with our single band member here. If you had some, a bigger band, you would kind of have a wider variety, but, like a photo that's a little thicker than just kind of a one center piece kind of thing. So, let's go ahead and just for the sake of, the tutorial, I'm going to toss in this picture. I'm pretty fond of it. And mad props to the person that shot that. It doesn't look very warm where this was taken. So cool. We basically, I'm going to match it up in the center. You can notice all this texture, and we went through in earlier, tutorials, the grunge brushes, the grunge pastes, all that stuff. You can start to see why we did that and how effective and how kind of cool it looks, in this overall image. So what we're going to do is we pasted this in. We kind of zoomed it, made it bigger so that it fits in. The best thing you could possibly do would be to, get the sharpest image you possibly can. The bigger the image, the more professional it's going to look when you paste it into an image of our kind of size. So what I'm going to do just to kind of see what we can do to help it out, because we did, stretched it. We stretched it literally, I would say 10 times bigger than it was supposed to be. We'll maybe sharpen it a little bit and give it a little hand. My computer can handle that right now. Yeah, it seems like, sharpening images this big. If you notice at the bottom, since the start of the tutorials, we had 51.3 megabytes of 100, and now we're up to 600 after all the stuff we've added. It's such a huge file. So definitely try doing, it as big as you can, but don't feel bad if your laptop can't handle it or something like that. I would just, go to image, then shrink, or adjust the image size to something more reasonable for a computer to handle. Whatever you're working with. I'm working with a quad core, processing PC with a built-in coolant system. It's pretty high end, But, you know, once again, it's already out of date. They say any computer that is built right in the factory is out of date the second it's put in the box. So, you know, that's kind of a little interesting fact, you know, of how quickly our modern technology is just evolving. But okay, so let's do this. We're going to drag it under. Let's see, I got a texture that I kind of left underneath like that, but I'm not going to do too much of that. So we're going to post it in here at the bottom beneath all our texture in this guy. I don't like how it looks. It needs to be a little more contrast and bright. So, I mean, you could easily toss, you know, and I see a lot of photographers just straight up toss a composite, and you know, once again, this image of this guy, this band dude, is this is called a composite. This is basically composite photography. In which case, you take different photos of different band members and paste them all into one once you get them all chopped up and cleaned up, and that becomes a composite shot. So, I mean, you know, the big problem I see a lot is photographers that try doing composites, but they do awesome with the lighting and they get the images set and they just kind of toss it on just a random photo. You know, what you need to do is kind of blend it a little bit better, and I'll show you a couple ways to do that. So, you know, I'm going to boost this bright. It's got a cool little lens flare kind of thing, and behind him, you know, this was before, you know, which is still pretty cool. That's after. So let's go with the contrasted kind of thing. And I just hit OK. So we basically got, you know, this new contrasted tree kind of thing going on. So, you know, from what we did was, you know, from step one, we cleaned this dude up a little bit. You know, in the final tutorials, what I'm most likely going to do is I'm going to combine, you know, these two, the blurry and him, you know, Control E, which they become one. You'll see. Basically merging the two. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of change, you know, mess with his brights and his contrast. The benefit to doing this is you make it blend in a little bit better. I mean, you know, a lot of studio lighting kits, and then you took this photo of this guy in a studio and you're throwing him on a picture that was obviously in natural light. It's not too professional looking. So that's, you know, where you got to be a little bit careful with your stuff, you know, to make it look a little bit more realistic. So, you know, I might even, you know, boost his contrast. You know, I should, you know, if I was a realist, turn down his brightness so it was kind of almost nighttime, you know, but I don't want to do that. I want to keep his kind of complexion thing going. So we'll have a little fake, you know, and, you know, what we'll do is I'm going to boost his contrast so we get his kind of, you know, glow a little bit better. Yeah, that's looking kind of decent. I don't want it bright where he's bled out like that. You know, we're not doing a MySpace photo here, you know, for, you know, overly obese, you know, 60-year-old man. Let's, okay, that looks pretty even. I kind of feel a little too much contrast. Yeah, there we go. So we got dark eyes. You know, the blacks are getting a little bit blacker. Let's hit OK. And now we got, you know, we got our background here. You know, if you want to blend it, we could do that trick that I showed you in a previous tutorial. I just duplicated our background. I'm going to go to the bottom one. I'm going to hit, you know, filter, blur, motion blur. So, you know, I'll give it a little motion blur. Let's see, you know, yeah, sure, why not? Okay, so underneath our good one, we got the blur one right there. You know what I'm talking about? So it's kind of vague. So, you know, be discreet, be kind of careful with what you do here. But, you know, I'm going to use our erase, you know, in erase grunge texture. In the previous lesson, you'll know all about that stuff. And I'm going to kind of drag it through the middle, you know, just a little bit. You know, I got it on at 35%. So the opacity is not going to be 100% deleted. You know, it's going to be just kind of a little vague, you know, in the middle. So right now you're seeing how the center, you know, is kind of blended a little bit more, and the outside still remaining pretty dark. This comes into effect if you want to do something like a vignette. You know, I've heard hillbillies call it vignettes, so because it's spelled V-I-G-N-E-T-T-E, I believe. So, you know, that's that dark ring that goes around your photo. So, you know, that's another kind of benefit to having, you know, like a, you know, kind of blur center thing like that. As far as duplicating your two, you know, and I'm even gonna just kind of brighten up that center stuff we delete. You know, we deleted just because I'm planning on doing a little lens flare later, so that's looking pretty good. We've come a long way since the start, but this, that's the gist of how you add a background, to your image. So check that out. Now I got a few more tutorials coming up here to polish this photo off, and then we'll get this kid rolling. Get a little groupies calling him up any second now. So yeah, check it out.